Welcome to the Redvee TV preview show, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2021 season. As we look ahead to Saints' round 7 trip to Perpignan this weekend to face the Catalans Dragons in what should be our toughest test of the season. Kevin, good evening.
Good evening. I was just about to say exactly the same thing. This is the first real test that you say we've got. Hopefully, after we've been saying that we were one of them teams who will step up, hopefully we can go over there, give a good account of ourselves and come home with the 2 points or at least 100% win rate. However we're counting it this season.
Is this a game that we need to win just so we can see social media posts about, oh, they won't beat the bigger teams or the bigger tests? Do we need to put that one to bed? Will it put it to bed?
I think it will. No, I don't think it will put it to bed. I think it will help, but I don't think it'll completely put it to bed. I think, as we say, it's our toughest task so far. Catalan are going well at the minute. Seem to be clicking and seem to be doing it on the road as well a little bit. They turned Hull over last week, who Hull are one of the fancied teams this year. But I can't see social media all being in harmony. There'll still be, even if we won 40-0 over there'll still be people moaning that it wasn't 42.
The question is, though, who do we need to beat for them questions to stop? Is it just Wigan? Because at the moment, they're our only real rivals at the top of the table. Everybody else seems to be dropping points. And then, obviously, will we be able to say, listen, we told you so, it's come about? And then people can say, well, they are actually no-alls after all.
Possibly. I think if we get to Wigan unbeaten, I think that'll placate a lot of fans and kind of, I'm not going to say prove them wrong because we'll end up losing the week after. But I think that will make the typical Saints. I think that will make people kind of ease off the they've not beaten anybody big. If we can get through, as I say, the likes of Catalan, Hull, Warrington, and as far as Wigan, and win all them games, then surely that's got to be. We've got to have some positive Saints fans. I did actually see a lot of negative Saints fans. Just to absolutely horrifically segue this in, with the COVID tests, loads of people got in touch with us and said that they were all negative. So that's the only time I like seeing negative Saints fans.
That's a positive, isn't it?
Yeah, or a negative. Yeah, it is.
No, Dave, it's a negative.
Yeah. Well, yeah, either way, whichever way you want, Saints fans will still take it as a negative.
Problem is, if you get two negatives, you get a positive.
Is this now Dave's maths club again?
Get one right for once. Yeah, I noticed there was less negativity this week, maybe because there was fans in the ground. Yeah, I think you get a different perspective when you're in a stadium than you are when you're watching either on TV or a stream. And I think you can see a bigger picture, can't you? Yes, we weren't great in the first half, but you could see what we were trying to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's two things. You're not guided by what the pictures and the commentators are telling you. So you're not, as I say, like buying into someone turning around and saying he's not playing well or he's having a great game. You're making your own mind up on the game. You might have people around you who are mentioning things. And another thing, you're right, being in the ground, you have that emotional tie to it. So I thought the West Terrace, I mean, everybody was great, but I was in the West Terrace. It was fantastic in there. The atmosphere was tremendous on Monday night. And you wouldn't say that for many Monday night games against Salford, but it was tremendous in there. And I think when you're in the ground, as you say, you get an overall view. You can see things off the ball that happen that you wouldn't necessarily see on a TV camera, or you can pick something up. You might just turn around and say, oh, I'll tell you what, he's made a couple of mistakes. I'm just going to keep my eye on him, which you wouldn't be able to do necessarily as I say, if you've got one camera angle, especially, no offence, they are league app, but they are running on one camera angle, really. If you've just got that, then you can't see kind of everything that's going on, can you? And you are guided by whatever the commentators say, even if you are turning around saying, oh, they're talking absolute rubbish. You're still guided by what they're saying. That puts you in kind of the negative mindset, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think obviously if you watch on TV as well, you these days you're looking at social media during a game, and the negative voices are always the loudest. We always say with the forums are always busiest when things are going wrong. When things are going swimmingly, there's a lot to talk about. So you're quite right. When you're at the game, you're watching and you're focused on the game. You get involved in the atmosphere and you see things differently. And it's amazing how things can be perceived. Should we move on to the squads?
Yep.
The Saints squad this week, Kevin. I'm just going to draw the changes.
No changes. Yeah, you can't use your new little tool. Oh, you found a way of using it. No arrows today though, because there's no changes.
No. Obviously, listening to Christian Wolf on Saints TV in his interview, he was talking about likely to go with the same 17 this week. Nobody made any mistakes. He was pleased how we went. And for consistency, he wants to go with the same 17 this week. So
yeah,
then,
and you can't disagree that.
So then we'll see Ben Davis, we'll see Dan Norman, we'll see Josh Sim, and we'll see Lewis Dodd all start.
You think that's what will happen, do you?
and guess what? I can make it disappear. Oh.
Look at this. Wonders will never cease with this technology, eh? But you know what? He's right with regards to doing this same 17. This is how you get your combinations working. And listen, I know they'll change when the likes of Tommy Makinson come back in. But this is how you get your combinations. Your players learning how each other plays and where each other's going to be. The communication and every little tiny bit that you kind of won't necessarily pick up on if you just watch the game on a single camera on the R-League app or with Sky or anything like that. The only one that obviously you might say may well be a concern is Morgan Knowles was a bit pulled up a bit stiff, I think was the phrase used on Monday. It's a short turnaround. I think he'll start again, but it may well be that he does maybe 40 minutes this weekend rather than doing just 25.
Yeah, it's an interesting that one, Kev, because obviously the words that came out straight after the game was that he'd had a bit of a niggle, so they pulled him up for that. But then in his pre-match interview this week, Christian Wolf says he actually could have gone back on, but they just chose not to. But he will play more this week. Theo Fages really stepping up, I feel, last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he is. He's playing like someone with a point to prove. He's playing like someone who's, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm not leveling this at him, but he's playing as someone who kind of wants to stay at the club and wants the club to offer him the contract that he feels he deserves. That's it. I mentioned in the instant fan reaction, there are a couple of his kicks on Monday were just like a foot or so too long. They weren't dropping just before the try line. But apart from that, he was at his best on Monday, scoring a try, setting up your favourite try, the no-look pass, and just generally being at the heart of things. I know people are clamouring to have a proper out-and-out flashy 7. But for now, Theo, you can't drop him on this form. You can't turn around and put Lewis Dodd in on this form because Lomax and Fages are just doing a great job in the halves. And it might be that when we get a little bit further into the season, if there's a game where we feel, you know what, we can afford to lose it, or we can afford to kind of give a couple of the fringe players a go, that's what we'll do. I'm not saying we'll be going out throwing a game away, but it might be a game that doesn't quite go to plan, because like the Salford game last year, when they put a load of work through Lewis Dodd, that's what people will try and do. They'll try and target him, try and tire him out. They know they can't do that with Fages because he's already at Super League sharpness, and that he relishes that side of the game. I'm sure Lewis Dodd does as well. He'll get his chance, but at the minute, you just can't drop Theo.
Yeah, just as a demonstration of how much opinions differ. A couple of posts about Theo Fages that we received after the game last week. One post saying, "I've said it on repeat for the last 18 months, the guy's top draw, a true natural ball player, organiser, kicker. He makes things happen, produces something out of nothing and can tackle. We really shouldn't even be considering letting him go, get him signed up." And then another post saying, "Anyone who saw his kicking game tonight will know that he's anything but a good halfback. It was shocking, almost as shocking as him getting the man of the match award." So it's mad how different people perceive
polarizing.
He's a polarizing player at times.
Yeah, and you know what? When people say we shouldn't be letting him go, there's a couple of things there. One is, as the salary cap moved in real time to wages or inflation in the past 10 years, and should the salary cap kind of be expanded so players can stay at clubs and we can offer the likes of Theo Fages the contract that he feels he deserves. I don't think it has changed too much. If it hasn't changed too much, then you're going to get the second part of it as, once you start getting lads through and you need to find a pathway for Lewis Dodd if you think he's going to be good enough. You need to find a pathway for Josh Sim. You need to bulk up contracts of the likes of Jack Wellsby and James Bentley and Morgan Knowles and lads that you want to kind of build the core of your club round. All of a sudden, your likes of Theo Fages or, I don't know, Regan Grace, people like that might turn around and say, well, actually, I can go on the lookout for more money somewhere else. Yeah, I might not have the chance of winning as many trophies. Or I could drag, and if he is going to Huddersfield, like Matt Shaw, the journalist, thinks so, I'm the next step in Huddersfield, get into a grand final and winning it. I'm that confident in my own ability that I can go to Huddersfield and win them a Challenge Cup and win them a grand final, make sure they're finishing top one or two, and back yourself kind of to go and do it somewhere else as well.
And listen, these lads aren't footballers, whereas many footballers like are set for life. Listen, if Harry Kane stays at Spurs, for example, he's going to earn however many million. They're secure in a rugby player's career.
Would I blame the likes of Theo Fages or anybody in that squad for going to another club who may not be as successful as Saints for an extra 50 grand a year on a 3 or 4 year deal? Absolutely not.
No. And you know what? That's the difference between having 3 or 4 years extra salary in the bank to be able to go and retrain for a new career after your rugby career is finished. Absolutely no issue with it at all. And that's just the way the sport is. If the players were financially secure, if they were all financially secure and they were never going to have to work again, would have want the likes of our star players to be moving on for an extra 20 grand a year? Probably not. But it's a short career, and listen, I think they need to look after themselves a little bit as well, as much as we want them as a club to stay, and that's just the way it is, isn't it?
It is, and that's it. And like I read as well, I think it was Matt Shaw again saying that Saints wanted Theo to play a bit of 9. You might turn around as well at that and say, well, the direction that Saints want me to go in isn't the direction I want my career to go in. I'm the number 7 for my country. I'm the captain of my country. I want to hold down a scrum half spot. If they think that this kid's better than me, well, fair play to him. It's an evolution of sport. Let him crack on with him. I don't fancy going in at 9. I don't fancy doing the work that, as it stands, I think it'd be an absolutely fantastic 9 for us. But he might just turn around and say, no, again, I back myself at scrum half. I'm going to play scrum half.
And it works the other way as well, doesn't it? The club's loyalty is to put in the best product on the field they can for the next so many years. If we think as a club, Lewis Dodd is going to be our scrum half for the next 10 years, can you afford to allow him to stagnate for the next 2? Again, Lewis Dodd might want to play first team rugby. If Theo stands in his way, does he move on?
Well, exactly. He probably does, because he'll probably turn around in another 6, 12, 18 months, have a look at his position and go, hang on a minute, I could go and definitely get a game for someone who's struggling. Your likes of a Leeds, a Warrington, or even go over to the NRL and go and play over there. That's it. It's a very fine line and a very fine balancing act. I'm just glad I've not got anything to do with it, and I bet most people who watch this are glad that I haven't got anything to do with it as well.
And listen, we've got people at the club who've turned us into a success. That we're constantly in the hunt for trophies. We're always in the top 4 in the playoff spots. We're always there or thereabouts. Do you know what? You've just got to trust the decision making, and whatever happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Catalan squad. We can get it up. Any changes, Kev?
Yeah, Thomas Boss doesn't play for him anymore. I've not a clue. I tell you what, though, that squad, when you look at that squad, they should, and I know they're in 3rd position, but they've got to maintain that. Their challenge this season is to be consistent. From round 1 to the very end, to the playoffs, they need to be consistent, because they've got enough on that field. There's a couple of names that you might turn around and say, well, maybe not them, or they're probably past the best. But they've got some exciting players there, haven't they? And they've got some form players there. As we've said, this is going to be our biggest challenge. Not only the travelling over there, because we're doing it all in a day again, but also they've got some players who are clever enough and wise enough around a rugby field, and the physicality that they usually bring. I mean, if they play like they did in the playoffs against us last year when they tried just knocking us off the park, I've no problem that we'll go round them and beat them easily. But if they play smarter than that, it'll be a tough game.
Yeah, Gil Dudson returns from suspension, replacing Jason Battieri in the squad. Tom Davis can't get a game for Everton, so plays on the wing.
He's not wearing that dressing gown, is he?
New York Fashion Week. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's you like Sir Tom Davis. Tom Davis is a good finisher. He's quick and he's a good finisher. And he's listen. You probably turn around and say that there might be a French lad who could do, or who they should have brought through to do that job. But I think that the recruiting quite cleverly. That they've got a good mix of experience in the youth, the right players for the right positions. Like Arthur Moore, he's got the number 1 shirt. I think he comes off the bench sometimes. He can play a little bit. He can play one. Obviously, he can play in the halves as well. He's someone who, when I spoke to the Catalan fans before the start of the season, they were saying they were excited to see how he goes. So with that kind of, you have a look there, Tompkins, Maloney, Drinkwater, Morg, you think there's quite a bit of kind of guile and direction there for them.
Yeah, right. Moving on. Another big game this weekend, Kev. The Saints women take on the Leeds Rhinos in the Challenge Cup semi-final. It is live on the BBC iPlayer and Red Button, I believe, on Saturday at 3 o'clock. So double Saints whammy this weekend. When do we kick off? Is it 5 o'clock? Well prepared.
Yeah, okay.
It'll be 5 o'clock. Well, you can have back-to-back St Helens wins, hopefully, with the women.
Yeah.
Great start to the season so far. 86-0 against Bradford, 90-0 against Huddersfield, 44-10 against Bev. and beating the old rivals, Warrington. Are they rivals? Probably not, but 54-6. Let's not bump Warrington up too much. But yeah, it's all going well, isn't it? 230 points in the first 3 league games, only 6 conceded. But probably do you know what we've been saying about the men's team? Their real first big test this weekend against essentially one of the big 4, 5, maybe if York are coming into it. Cass, Wigan, Leeds, York, probably the top 5 teams in women's rugby at the minute. And a chance for the women to get to the Challenge Cup final.
Yeah, excellent for them. And that's it. You have a look at some of them results, big blowout victories. But the game and the top flight, it's only just starting out. We saw that absolutely ridiculous tweet saying it was a virtue signalling league. Absolute head's gone from whoever tweeted that. You've got to start somewhere. And then was it the week later in the championship that you tweeted out about it being virtue signalling after a couple of blowouts there? Anyway, that's it. The women's team are going really well. It's good to finally see Amy Hardcastle be able to pull on a Saints shirt as well after her move over here. And you know what? I think they can go all the way with it. I think that'll be the challenge for them. I was actually speaking to Faye Gaskin in the club shop a couple of weeks ago, and she said the challenge for them is not making a mistake. Like in some of the big victories, the challenge they were given was not to make a mistake. Now that is a big ask over 80 minutes to not make one error. And I'd imagine that even though Leeds are one of the better teams, that'll be kind of the message that'll be put out to them. Don't make a mistake, and they'll go out and win that game.
Yeah, we can't get through.
But Leeds, as you say,
we can't get through a 20-minute episode of this without making a mistake.
Exactly, yeah. That's it. But Leeds are a good team. I think that's one to take at the peril. If they look back at them big blowout scores and think, oh well, we can do that to those teams, and we're playing quite well at the minute, and we're putting 50 points on and 80 points on and whatever, and go into it with any type of kind of eye off it or just complacency, they'll come unstuck against Leeds.
Now, I don't want to come across as ignorant on this, so don't say, oh no, where's this is going. The answer is, I don't know the answers to these questions. And I was thinking about, obviously, these big blowout scorelines. Obviously, it is a new league. It is a new setup. These girls are, a lot of them doing it unpaid. It is a semi-professional league. And how you prevent that? Because obviously there's no salary cap. How tied down are players to clubs in what? And for how long? Is it just for the year? So at the end of the year, how do Bradford, for example, if Bradford have got a star player, how do they prevent one of their players moving to one of the teams at the top of the table without it being a salary cap sport?
Well, I think the answer there is a week or so ago, York signed 7 players. Some from Bradford, some from Cass. Memory's not doing me any favours there, but they signed 7 players on the same day. Is that what?
York have invested a lot. Is that how you attract the best players? But
yeah,
until every team is on an equal footing in terms of what they can offer and facilities, are you always going to see the best players gravitate to the top clubs? And listen, it's no different than Premier League men's football, is it? When at the end of the day, the top teams cherry pick the best players.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think they follow the coach over there. York appointed a new coach, and all of a sudden, a load of their players went over. Unless you turn around and say you are signed to them for a season, and there will be no transferring of registration or anything like that, you can only move down a league rather than across. But then is that a restraint of trade?
Yeah,
you've got to have a transfer window with you. I mean, they're not going for any money, but they're just transferring a registration across. I think, listen, we're probably putting the cart before the horse by saying until they can offer it in the women's game. I think it's all across rugby league of being able to offer, whether that be bigger salaries, better facilities, everything across the board.
I think you've probably seen it in the women's football as well. I think for many years was it Doncaster Bells, who were, and Arsenal were at the top of the game, and then all of a sudden Man City and Chelsea came along and obviously heavily invested and basically creamed the best players off from every other club, and now they're the ones who are challenging for obviously European titles as well. The answer is, again, I'll admit our ignorance on some of this, and I think maybe for a future show we try and get some guests on who do know the answers, and we can get a little bit more informed.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. As you say, it's almost like just letting the league settle down a little bit. It's the trailblazers, these women. They're starting it all off. So these that are involved now will probably look back in another 20, or hopefully look back in another 20, 25 years and go, I started that, and aren't we in a better place now? Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but they'll probably look back and think, like as you say, the girls who used to play for Doncaster in the football are looking back thinking, this is how far we've come. I wish I was involved now as well. But yeah, that's it. As you say, we're probably better off getting someone on who knows a hell of a lot more about it than we do.
I hope Gemma Walsh isn't watching this, Kev, because she played for 15, 16 years when I was reading the bio when she retired. She'll go, I was out just a long time. It's not just
a long time ago, yeah.
But yeah, do you know what? As it is, until they sort things out and it becomes more of a level playing field across the board, we'll just have to enjoy Saints being like the Harlem Globetrotters and hopefully bring some silverware back.
Yeah, and as you say about training facilities, I think the St Helens Council have announced that they want to kind of make the old Par Baths and Par Stock Fields into a big training base for Saints, because Saints went to Cowley and had 3 teams over there, and now there's you've got the is it PDRL, you've got the ladies team, you've got the first team, the scholarship team, the reserves. You've got so many players that kind of need facilities. And I know the council, it's very early days, but the council have announced that that's what they're looking into. And that's probably what other clubs, towns, boroughs have got to start doing if they want to kind of get people playing sports, and get people wanting to be part of something like the Women's Super League, or get the youngsters in, because there's a absolutely fantastic facility to use.
Well, do you know what I will say? I know Women's Super League is great and what the clubs are doing. The community clubs as well. Anecdotally, I was not this weekend, just gone the weekend before, passing one of Fat O'Eef's pitches off Elton Head Road. Had my daughter in the car with me, who's 8 years old. Not a massive rugby fan. Doesn't come to Saints. Aren't we bad, Kev? Should be taking it with us.
No, she probably just listens to you and thinks I can't be bothered with that as well.
Anyway, obviously I had it in the car. Fat O'Heath girls were playing. They had a match. I can't tell you what age group it was, but it was probably teenagers, under 18s. So we just pulled over at the side of the road where all the cars are, just because she wants to watch for 5 minutes to see what was going on. And I tell you what, the standard was pretty good. And my little girl was going, I'll have a go at that. And I'm thinking, you'll get absolutely munched. I think she'd have to play on the wing.
Well, don't extinguish that dream.
No, but yeah, I'm looking at her thinking that the way them girls were tackling, I'm thinking, oh my God.
We've watched quite a few of the women's Super League games. Dave, you watch them and you can hear the collisions. And I do think, no, I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right stood over here with a coffee just watching this rather than getting involved in rugby.
Yeah. There was a couple of the props from Fat O'Eef and they were running in hard, making gaps. And you know what? They scored a flowing try about 70, 80 yards. And I was desperate to start beeping me on as they went over. But I thought we're doing that. So just said, right, let's carry on to Petsero.
Yeah. It's a weird extended to a story.
That's where I was going. Anyway, right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tune in next week for another one of Dave's Jack and Ori stories. Thanks, Kev.
To hear of Dave beeping his hole.
I'll have to go up there this weekend now and be doing it again.
I mean, this is it. We've not even mentioned Tom this week going on loads of Oldham tonight. And there we are.
There we go. See you later.
See ya.